in this lesson, we'll talk about smoothing and beveling and how that affects our topology and some of the ways that we can kind of clean up topology that arises from some of the things that we can do. So one of the nice things about adding a smooth is that it will actually make your mesh into quads. So for instance, I have a sphere right here, and it actually has an n-gon and it has some triangles up here. But if I go ahead and apply just a smooth, and I'll just reset everything and go ahead and smooth it, you can see that it actually has turned those triangles into quads and also this n-gon. Okay, so if I want to now use this as my starting point, I've eliminated all of the triangles. Even up here at the pole, you can see it's turned those triangles into quads. Okay, so that's nice. You can actually get rid of your triangles and n-gons that way. Okay, and that comes from just using the smooth. But also, there will be times when we want to actually smooth our mesh, but we want to keep certain edges as sharp, or we want to bevel. That's kind of the same. Gives you kind of the same effect as if you were to bevel just a polygon object. Smoothing an object and hardening the edges gives you that same sort of effect, and that is a little strip of light kind of along that edge, making it look a little bit more realistic. So if we take this sphere, and let's just take some faces in kind of an irregular pattern here, and let's extrude those in. Okay, you can see how the edges are extremely sharp. And normally we want to avoid that. And so we can bevel those edges. And we'll see how this affects our topology in just a second. You can see that we're all quads still. Okay, because we've just taken those individual polygons and extruded them in. If we take that entire sort of loop of edges there, and let's go to bevel. I'm just going to reset everything. Let's go ahead and bevel that. Let's make that bevel just a bit smaller. That's probably good. And so that gives us this little kind of light hit on these edges. It makes it look more realistic. Okay, see that inset. But what's happened to our topology, it's real easy to just say, oh, that bevel looks great. Everything is still fine. But if we take a look at our topology, we notice that now we have some triangles here in these corners, and we also have some n-gons. And if you just look at it from back here, it's hard to tell, but we have n-gons here, here, basically at all of the corners where it's cut across there. Okay, and so you can go in and fix those if you want to. If you're going to be smoothing it out after, you can do that, but the purpose of beveling for us is to be able to keep this low polygon kind of mesh and still get that highlight on the edges without having to smooth it. And so one of the things that you could do would be to actually just take these points, the new points that are created on all of the corners, and just merge those together. And then sometimes you can take the normal move axis and you can just kind of move them down a little bit and over to get that same look here. So you can see that it created that little triangle here in this corner, but on these positive corners it didn't do that. And so it's going to look okay to merge those together, and you'll still get a nice bevel. You just won't get that sort of triangle corner there. Okay, so now we have again a quad, and we don't have a triangle. Okay, and that's just done by taking both of these and just merging those together. And usually I just kind of move them out to maintain a consistent width of the bevel. Okay, and you can see that happens on all of these sort of exterior corners, and here and here. Okay, and so that's one of the ways that you can kind of fix that. Now, if we have something where we're taking a piece of geometry and we're going to be adding some detail and then we're going to be smoothing it to get that edge. So we'll do the same sort of thing here. Just get kind of an irregular shape here. We'll go ahead and extrude it in. Okay, And now let's say we're going to be smoothing this sphere. So I'll just use the 3 key on the keyboard to see what that's going to look like. You can see it's a very soft shape, and we want it to be very hard edged. Okay? We want to have a nice sharp edge on there, just like we have over here, but we want it to be, we want to have these nice contours, but our top edge and our bottom edge we want to be nice and sharp. Okay? So like we have here, except we're going to be using smoothing to get this effect. So to do this, we need to add edges, but the edges can't just flow one way or another way. So if we try to come in here with our insert edge loop tool, and let me go ahead and reset that from multiple. So if we go ahead and try to just add an edge loop, it's just going to go straight across. It's going to affect the shape of our sphere. Okay, so this is where our topology comes in. It's flowing where we don't need it. Okay, it is where we do need it, right in here, but then we have this line, we have to add one here. We want to sharpen that edge, we got to add one there. We want to sharpen that edge, we got to add one there. So we end up with all of these lines going up our nice smooth sphere. And then when we smooth it, you can see what happens to our sphere. Not really what we want, even though it does, sharpen that line up just like we want. So let me take out all of those edge loops and then try this again. Now obviously we can come in and very easily add an edge loop inside here, because that'll follow right along with that loop. Using our insert edge loop tool, we can come in and do that, and you can see that'll definitely help, but we still aren't going to get that nice sharp edge on the top. And so what we can do is turn off in our tool. Now this is in Maya, but you can use the corresponding tool in other applications. You can use a variety of different tools. In fact, we're just adding edge loops, adding edges actually. And so we can turn off autocomplete. And now I just want to start to follow along here. So I'm going to go from here to here. Okay. And you could come down at this point too if you wanted to. Okay. And then I could start to come from, let's say, here to here. And I'm just isolating that along the edges where I need them to be. There and there. We could also use our split polygon tool. So I'm just shift right clicking, split, and we could manually come in here and do this. Okay. This gives us the same sort of thing that we had with our bevel, so we got to watch out for that. Okay. Coming down here, again, same sort of thing, cutting that across. Now we could come in here, just click across here, and let's just connect this up with the corner. Okay. And now we can start from anywhere on this corner, maybe right up in here, and this is that new line that we created, and then come over to this spot and cross over. Now when we do corners like this, we want to take that, create that consistent width, and move it up. And so you can see we're just kind of tracing around our existing line. And you can do the same thing all the way up here. Then obviously you want to come in and you can go ahead and merge some of those points together, just like we did with our bevel. Same thing over here, getting rid of that n-gon, getting rid of that triangle. And that's giving us that edge that we need to make that nice bevel when we smooth it. Okay, let's do one more, and then we'll take a look at what this actually looks like. Go ahead and merge that and bring it up. And so now if we smooth this, you can see over here it's still very soft, even though we've added that new edge inside, whereas over here we get a nice sharp edge here. Okay, but we're still able to get this nice smooth curve and our nice spherical shape. Okay, whereas if we do it without smoothing it, we can get a bevel on the edge, but we need more polygons in order to get smoother shapes in there. Well, you can also bevel those interior edges as well to get some smoother shapes. So depending on if you're smoothing or you're not going to be smoothing, just keep in mind that you do have the ability to come in and shore up those edges. If you try to start inserting edge loops and they're going all over the place, you just need to isolate your topology a little bit better around those particular edges, and you can do that with any of the manual edge adding tools that you have available in whatever application that you happen to be using. Okay, and then just remember to merge those all in the corner, and you can get a nice edge moving around. Okay, now if you're thinking ahead, you can do all of this beforehand in many cases. So if I come over here and I say, well, I'm going to extrude another very similar shape here, but now in this case I'm thinking ahead of time, well, I know I'm going to be smoothing this and I know I want a sharp edge around the top, so what I'm going to do is actually do an extra extrude. So I'll do an extrude here, click on the scale, and I'm just going to scale it in ever so slightly. Okay, sometimes when you have shapes like this, you'll need to come in and grab those points with your normal move and just give those a little bit of breathing room. So you can see where this is a little bit too close, so I just want to make a consistent line there. And so I'm going to come in and fix that. We'll do the same thing here, just by moving that point a little bit. Grab that interior and over. And now you can see I've already automatically gotten that outer loop. Now all I have to do is extrude in. If I know I want a nice sharp corner, I'll just do a single extrude, very short one, right where that edge is, and then I'll repeat that and then push in the thickness. So you can see there I've thought ahead of time, and I've saved a little bit of trouble going back in and adding that in. So if that's something you know of ahead of time, then it's very easy to add. But if you've forgotten or you decide later on, you can still add it in by just drawing out those edges manually. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And again, you just have to keep in your mind, are you going to be smoothing it? You know, how sharp do I want the edges to be, and so forth. Okay, so the next thing that we'll talk about is a little bit about topology for animation. So we'll go ahead and do that next.